to order. Would you call the roll, please?
Absolutely. Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Ms. Grab?
Here.
Ms. Bargo? Mr. Lazio?
Here.
Ms. Wyckoff?
Here.
Mr. Thewes?
Here. Okay, we have a quorum present, so we will now start our business meeting. First order of business then would be the approval of the minutes from the March 21st, 2023 meeting.
You want to approve the agenda?
Oh, sure. Let's approve the agenda. I'm just going to, wing this and say, well, I'll take it. That's right. I missed that one. I'm reading the old print. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting? Sorry.
Yeah, this is Michael. I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Been moved and seconded that the agenda from the March 21st meeting be approved. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The minutes from the March 21st meeting have been approved. The excuse me, next item then would be the capital improvement maintenance planning subject, and I think,
We skipped, so we approved the agenda.
yeah,
We want to approve.
I thought we just approved it. Oh, that was, no, you're right. No, I actually do understand what I was doing. I just
No, it's okay.
ignored it. All right, we've approved the agenda. Now I'd like to have a motion for approval of the minutes from the March 21st meeting. So moved.
Second.
I second, Michael.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that the minutes be approved from the March 21st meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The minutes of the March 21st meeting have been approved. So now we are on item 5, which is a discussion about capital improvement maintenance / planning. And Aaron?
Yep.
Right.
Oh, good. Excellent. I was kind of wondering who's going to make that presentation.
So,
There's two errands, but I'll just to give a brief summary of what we'll talk about today. So the library has begun a search for a firm to help us with a maintenance plan and budgeting for the next 5 to 10 years. And with us today is Aaron Gordon, who will give us an overview of kind of the work we've done up until this point. So Aaron Gordon,
yes,
I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Aaron Mason. Good morning. I'm Aaron Gordon. I'm the facilities manager. I've been working on the library's building since 1996. And I want to provide kind of an update regarding the planning. We have contacted several companies and we're waiting for a final number for them to get back to us. Now, along these lines, just want to talk a little bit about the scope. It's going to encompass 24 locations, 25 with HQ. And really, this is just a continuation of the capital plan, right? So there was stuff during the capital plan that wasn't addressed. Antioch's a good example. We had a roof there. The roof was put on in 2000. The warranty was up in 2020, and we're at 2023. We've done maintenance. We've done items to keep these roofs viable and keep these maintenance items going. But there's parking lots, same location. There's parking lots there we need to look at. HVAC's the same way. So most of this that we're going to talk about is specific areas this scope encompasses, right? We're going to look at specific areas where, like say, we couldn't get this in the capital plan and we couldn't look at it and go, okay, like we only had enough funding to do part of the work that needed to be done. So the scope of work is for exterior components. It's for foundations, windows, doors, roofing, floors, ceilings, lighting at certain locations. MGC is still interior. It does not have LED upgrades. Mechanical HVAC systems. Actually, we've got a list. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to bring a third party into this. And that third party will help us set cost. They're going to help us with our deficiencies. They're going to help us set budgets for the next 5 to 10 years and prioritize those repairs. a big part of this too is parking lots, right? So we're looking at sidewalks, fencing, landscaping, drainage. This year we're doing out of Antioch, we're doing a survey and we're doing some geotech work just so we can kind of set up for next year. Could we do a 2-inch overlay? Should we do a full complete replacement? So along these same lines is what this encompasses. And what we want is we want this to be completed by February 2024 so it can align with that budget process.
Let me ask what you mean by this report from the third party. That would be done by 24.
Yes. We're pushing for basically an assessment by February 2024. Right. Correct. To help with that budgeting process.
So the plan is to have a full proposal with a dollar number attached to it, which we would then bring to the building committee and then the full board for review.
Let me ask, because I think you mentioned earlier to me, are we wanting to approve this at the November board meeting? Or wait until February?
No, ideally we would do it in November, but Aaron Gordon, please refresh my memory on how long you think we need to get the full proposal.
In talking, I think we're probably, a couple weeks out from here. I can do some poking around, Aaron, and try and get a hard date back. We've changed a little bit a couple times on adding a couple locations here and there. So I'll try and get something back to you here, but I would guess we could have something in a couple weeks.
Yeah, Trustee Johnson, the timeline, that we would like to stick to is have the work complete by February, which would then give us time to kind of evaluate our budgetary needs for the next year and the years to follow. So to do that, we need to move quickly.
My question really is, should the building committee have a special meeting prior to the trustees meeting of November 21st?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually, thank you for reminding me. That is something that we would need to discuss, because I think as it stands right now, the building committee, I'm not sure what the official date is, but we would need to have a special meeting to review this proposal before the full board meeting in November. And I believe the full board meeting is November 21st. Is that correct, Ellie?
Yes.
So I've been told that sometimes special meetings are held the day of the board meeting. I'm not sure that's enough time, but otherwise we need to agree to a earlier building committee meeting in November. So I'm not sure I want to wait all the way to the 21st, but.
Agreed.
Okay, so I don't have, does anybody have a paper calendar with them? I might have on my phone, but.
I have the calendar on my laptop.
Are you looking for a specific date?
I'm just trying to, see what.
Thursday, the 16th.
Yeah, we had something scheduled the 16th.
Yeah, I had it on my calendar that there was already a meeting, so it may just be a tentative hold.
Right.
Well, I would also assume it doesn't have to be on a Thursday, but, so members of the committee, is there a time, and the 21st is the third, I guess, the first part of the fourth week of November. Is there a time frame that works best for the committee members, say through the first full week? So that starts on the 6th, 13th, then will be the second full week. So any dates during the day of the week of the 6th and the week of the 13th? I guess I should ask.
Yeah, if I could just interject, sorry.
Yeah.
I think the 6th may be too early, so we want to make sure that we have time to get the contract or the proposal from the vendor. So
we're talking about the time. So sometime during the second week, full week of November, which starts Monday the 13th.
yes.
Yeah, I'm just, now members of the committee, are any particular time frames look better for you on the second week of November? Again, that starts on Monday the 13th.
Just about any daytime works for me. I'm a little tight on Tuesdays and Thursdays, as you can see, but I can be here pretty close to 10. If we're talking daytime.
I assume we're talking days. Is that daytime?
Monday and Tuesday are out for me.
Okay.
And just a reminder, the North Oak book opening is on the 17th. That's a Friday, and that's at 9 a.m., I believe. Or
Yes,
what
9
time is
a.m.
that?
Yep.
I mean, I guess if we have to do a Monday or Tuesday, I will.
No, that's fine. So we're looking.
I'll
at-
definitely just be online, is what I'm going to say. There's no way I can make it in.
Oh, I see. Yeah. And the 15th or
There's a
16th.
chance I may be out of town the end of the week, but I mean, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
How's Wednesday the 15th sound? That kind of in the middle of, it's the middle of the week, obviously. It's so.
Great.
This is Joycelyn. I'm can't check my calendar right now because I'm driving, but I will try to make any time you have. Just let me know.
How does Wednesday, the morning of the 15th sound? I know we haven't set a time yet, but the morning of the 15th sound good for, okay? We're getting yeses here, nods here.
Sounds good to
Those
me.
online.
Yes, that's better for me. Thank you.
So what time?
It's a major issue for me, but I can skip pickleball that day. For sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I'll pick it up on Tuesday. How about 10 o'clock on the 15th?
Sounds great to
November,
me.
Wednesday, November 15th, 10 o'clock for a special meeting of the building committee. Is that good with everyone?
Yep.
Okay. November 15, 10 a.m. here at headquarters. Okay, thank you. Now, any other? Either Aaron, two Aarons, is that good? Is that?
Yeah,
any more
that
you need to
works
add
for
to
us.
a report? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, let's move to construction updates then.
All right.
Yeah, 6.1 on our agenda. Who wants to talk about Green Valley right now?
So with us is Jessica Carson from Dunn, and I don't know, Jessica, if anyone else is with you. But on our agenda is Green Valley and North Oak. But since we've been having some issues at Green Valley, I figured we would turn it over to you to talk a little bit about the issue with water that we've had with the rains. And if you could just let the board know what happened and what we're doing to rectify the problem.
Sure. I'd like to start off by saying we deeply apologize for this issue. We are working to remedy it at a high level. We have discovered the source of the water, and it is related to the AT&T box that is outside of the building. And this box is the housing of the temporary residential line that internet into the building. That is where the water is coming in. It's filling up in that box. And then essentially, because the elevation of that box is higher than the building, it's sloping right into the IT room on the interior. As of right now, we have found a temporary fix to stop the water and keep the water out of the building. And we are to the next phase of researching a permanent solution. So as of right now, overnight, we had the water remediation company stay and make sure that they were vacuuming out any water that was coming in so that we didn't let the water continue to fill the building overnight. But as of right now, it has been contained, and we are working towards a permanent solution that allows the lines to remain until the permanent line is installed, I think in December. So yeah, like I said, we have a lot of fans going on the interior, and it's drying out. We are working JE Dunn with our quality team to make sure that we are covering all of our bases to make sure that drywall is cut and allows the cavities to dry out appropriately and quickly to avoid any mold or anything like that. So yeah, that's where we're at. Let me know if you have any additional questions, but yeah, we've contained it, and we're working towards finding a permanent solution.
Yeah, this is Michael. I have a question.
Sure.
Certainly.
So what's the long-term view of all this, and what I know you're working to find a solution. So is there anything in sight right now? Any plans on that right now?
Right now, we are working with our electrician and who placed the conduit originally for AT&T to be able to route into. We are in the phase of investigating who installed what, but essentially, I think the end is going to be to make sure that we can get the conduit up higher. Right now, it's sitting in that box. It's filling up with groundwater, and I think we need to install some new boxes that raise the elevation of the actual conduit up so that it doesn't get submerged in water. I think that seems to be the most logical solution as of right now, but we will need to be in coordination with AT&T to make sure that they're okay with the relocation. Same with our electrician, but and I don't want to get into the weeds, but right now the box is sitting on gravel, and you would think that it would drain on its own, but the soil beneath it is very dense. It's clay-like, so it's not draining like a normal, like you would think it would. So we may also install maybe another drainage solution that allows it to daylight out and drain to the north. And maybe it's a combination of both solutions, raising the elevation of it so that it's sitting, above where the water is flooding, and then also daylighting it out as a secondary solution to prevent water from getting that high. So that's what we've discussed this far, but we'll make sure to continue to brainstorm to find the best and most logical solution to preventing this from happening going forward.
Well, I appreciate your answer, but this is very concerning to me personally. It's like, wow, brand new, facility. You never expect anything like this to happen, but
right. Yeah, and we've learned through it. I think it is I learned recently similar scenarios happened at a previous branch, but they have different soil conditions, and we're able to make other slight adjustments to fix this issue. But I think just based off the soil conditions that we have, the drainage of that AT&T box as it currently sits, we'll have to find some different solutions.
And Jessica, if I could add something, this is Eric Nickerson with J Dunn as well on the line. To be fully transparent, I think, as some of you may know, there was some issues getting internet service to Green Valley, which I think delayed the opening for a little while, and AT&T installed kind of a temporary solution. And just initial review leads us to believe that the way they installed the temp solution is the source of the water coming into the building. So like Jessica said, there's a little confusion with kind of who installed what out there. So we're still kind of trying to figure out how it came to be. Regardless of that, we think we've got some solutions for it, but we also, at the end of the day, need to figure out kind of who did what to see, who's responsible. But anyway, at the end of the day, it appears to be potentially an AT&T issue when they installed the temp service.
Ron, I think you had a question.
Yeah. I was just wondering, was there not some kind of a cover or something as simple as that could have been put up on the box to preclude what seems like a deluge inside the building?
So the AT&T box is not a weather tight seal. It does have a very heavy lid on it, similar to what you would have like a water manhole. They're very heavy. They aren't watertight. But if you were to look at a section of that box, it sits on gravel, and theoretically it should be draining out. But like I mentioned, through the gravel rock beneath it is a very clay-like soil that just prevents water from weeping out like it normally would if the soil was not so densely packed. So it should function as it is if the soil was a different type of soil, but
okay, so then the water percolated up through the ground?
Correct. It's not draining like it should, the AT&T box.
Okay, and then from this box, there was a hose or conduit or something that went into the building?
Correct.
But, we've been hearing weather reports for the past week plus. Could not have that hose been simply disconnected?
The conduit is the pathway into the building,
building.
for the internet service. And we were trying not to get into the weeds, but if you're curious, there's kind of two issues. One is that the box is filling up with water. So when the box fills up with water, it gets into the conduit. Even when the conduit was kind of sealed up, water was getting into it. The other issue is that, and this was what I was alluding to earlier, someone cut the conduit underground and stuck another conduit into it and didn't properly make that connection. So we think that there's water getting into the conduit underground as well, not even at the box. So there's really two locations of infiltration. And we think this all happened when AT&T came out to install the temporary service line. So to answer your question, no, the conduit can't be really disconnected unless we also disconnect the internet service to the building. What we've done temporarily is dug up the conduit where it enters the building and basically drilled some drain holes in it so that the water cannot enter the building anymore. But ultimately, the permanent fix needs to be out at the box where these connections were made.
Okay, so help me here, Erica and Jessica. I remember in previous OAC meetings, prior to the installation of the AT&T box, we still had leaking issues. I think in the break room. Kristen, can you help refresh my memory here? I don't remember exactly where the water was coming in.
Yes, we had water in the break room prior to getting this AT&T solution for internet. So it has been coming in there since before we took possession of the building.
Yeah.
So how would it be AT&T? That didn't happen until the end.
Well, maybe they're two separate issues, but yes. Jessica or Erica, are these connected or are these two different issues?
Jessica, you'll have to answer that because I'm not sure of timing between the box and those conduits out there versus the first time the water was identified.
Yeah, and I would have to look back. In my memory, I remember the water starting to come into the building after. I remember specifically our trade partner had to dig up something on the site to isolate these conduits. And then AT&T started sort of tinkering, but timeline, I at this moment can't argue whether it started before or after AT&T put their box in. I do know it got worse if that's not the case.
Yes,
but
I would agree. It definitely got worse since that. But I know that we had water in the break room before we started moving in, and at that time we had no connection from AT&T. There was nothing. That's why we didn't open, and so because we did not have the internet.
That was close to substantial completion you're talking about, because we were out there and we actually, Sarah was asking me about putting in a work order in regards to what you're talking about. That's occurring, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there was definitely water in there prior to AT&T, but it definitely has gotten worse since AT&T.
Coming in the entrance.
When you say,
I have a question.
Real quick, when you say prior to AT&T, are you saying prior to having internet or prior to them putting the box in?
Well, they didn't have a box at all there for a while. That was the whole issue. And then they got the residential internet. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, we can follow up on that. We'll have to check the timeline.
Michelle?
Yes.
Okay, different subject.
I can't.
We get that.
Yes, sir.
Michelle?
Well, it's really hard to hear on this end with other people having conversations on the side.
Okay, let's have just one person talking.
I guess I'm also trying to figure out, so we took possession of a building that we were already having problems with, right? That's what I'm hearing. We were already having water issues, and then
it looks that way. I have a picture of the break room, so I assume that was prior to our taking possession. I don't know, but
Okay,
Just
so,
have water on the
I mean, I guess
break room.
there's a few things here, but so is 8, I mean, I get we're like trying to be politically correct here, but I don't know that I have that kind of patience, I guess, with this. So it is AT&T helping with this? Or are they being difficult? Like, do we need to, are our attorneys involved? Do they need to be involved? Like, what do we need to do to actually just like get this fixed?
Eric, and you can step in too as well, but I think right now with JE Dunn, between JE Dunn, our trade partner, and our contacts with AT&T, I believe we can figure out the permanent solution between the 3 parties at this point in time. I think it's feasible, but I think we will have to be in coordination with AT&T to ensure that we don't make any permanent changes that will prohibit them or prevent them from getting their permanent line installed in December. So I think
just would feel better if I heard it's going to be fixed. So I would like somebody.
It will be. We're not going to allow this to continue. So yeah, it's top priority for JE Dunn to make sure that this is resolved. Like we discussed earlier, the temporary to keep water from getting into the building that has been installed as of right now. And our next step is making sure that the permanent solution is coordinated properly, so that we do isolate the actual issues and that we coordinate that in conjunction with AT&T. So we're on the right
timeline. Do we have
as soon as possible? Like it's a critical.
To clarify, water has been stopped. There is no water coming into the building. When this was first identified, we went and researched it, trying to figure out where the water was coming from, and it had stopped raining, and it's almost impossible to identify when it's not actually coming in. So we needed to wait. I know this sounds bad, but we needed to wait for the next rain incident to truly identify where it was coming from, because it's almost impossible to figure it out unless it's actually happening.
No, I get that.
So once it started raining yesterday, basically, and it happened again, we were able to actually identify where it was coming from. So to answer your question, Michelle, yes, you took over a building that had a water leak. The problem was no one knew what was causing that water leak to be able to fix it at the time. Now we have figured that out yesterday. It's been addressed so that there will be no more water coming in the building. Like Jessica said, yes, there needs to be a permanent fix out at the street, which we need to coordinate with AT&T, but it's not like there's going to be issues until that permanent fixes happen. The source of the water has been basically cut off to the building. It's not going to get into the building anymore.
Okay. And then how much does is this permanent fix? We getting another big bill for that?
So right now, Jay Dunn's just taking care of all this. And obviously our most important thing yesterday was stopping the water. That's step 1. Step 2 is cleaning up the damage from the water. Step 3 is kind of making the permanent fix. And that step 4, I think, is figuring out who's ultimately responsible. To answer your question, no, the library is not going to get a bill for this. Now, we might have to kind of have the discussion with AT&T about who's responsible for this, because they're not under our contract. So that might be a discussion that happens, but at the end of the day, it's not an MCPL problem.
Great. Trustee Wyckoff, the way the handovers work is when we take possession of a building, there is a list of outstanding or remaining items that still need some work. And we were aware of this when we took possession of the building. And the same, our next item on the agenda is North Oak, and there's still some items there. Like one that comes to mind is an elevator that some work still needs to be done on. I'm not sure if it's complete yet, but these are all things that we were aware of.
Okay. If I've learned anything in life, it's the water always wins. So that just knowing we had water issues and maybe I knew it and I didn't really realize it, but as long as it's being fixed, and I just prefer to just spit it out and tell us what's going on rather than having me try to figure out what you guys are saying.
In terms of water, I don't comment. The break room water, though, did not occur yesterday. Is that
It's occurred multiple times, so
No, but I mean,
it,
did it occur yesterday?
Yes, it did.
Oh, it's still.
and it went all the way through to the assistant manager's office, to the IT room, all the way through there.
So now we're pretty well sure that, is this water flowing today inside?
No.
Okay. Ron?
One question I had was whether or not there's water flowing in right now. That's answered, but one hears of water coming into some structure and mold and other nasties arise. Do we have anything in place to absolutely make sure that there's not going to be any illness or exposure for our employees or the users of the library from mold or whatever that might be triggered from this stuff?
I'll take that one. So we engaged a water remediation company yesterday. So NCRI, we've got a national agreement with. They came out to do remediation. They're also responsible for removing drywall and in unison with our quality department, between NCRI and our quality folks, we will basically remove drywall, to the point where the water got. We'll remove that plus another foot of drywall everywhere, ensure that the wall cavities are dried out. We've got moisture meters that will go test everything before anything's built back. And that's kind of part of what NCRI does as their whole business model. So to answer your question, yes, that's kind of the next step of remediating what happened. Does that answer your question? Sorry.
So I guess, so that's the best practice right now.
Mm-hmm.
Say that again.
So what you're proposing is right now the best practice?
Yes. Like this, apologize if this is a bad example, but if this were to like happen at your house, you'd call like a Serv Pro probably to come in and remediate the water and tear out drywall and stuff like that. That's essentially what NCRI is. So again, between them and our quality department, yes, this is our kind of standard protocol for a water intrusion incident.
Any other comments or questions on this issue?
So let me ask real quick. So are they spraying a micro inhibitor, like chemical down, and are they drying with dehumidifiers too, Eric? Is that what we're doing besides just blowing air around the building?
I have not been out there, so Jessica would have to advise, but I believe I know they're fans. I believe there is a dehumidifier too.
Huge.
My understanding
My
from
basement last night, I gotta follow up on this too.
my understanding from our quality department is that typically the first 48 hours is when the dry out period needs to happen to make sure that there's no mold growth concern. So that's what we're doing right now, is just making sure it gets dried out, and we'll be using moisture meters to test everything and make sure everything is dried out and remove anything that got wet.
Right. I think the other concern that we have, this is left over from Oak Grove a few years when we had a flood, is really it's the smell. If you get too much in your carpet, it gets super saturated. Even when you do get it dry, you can still get odor in it. So that's a concern too that I would have at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'll be totally honest with this group. We don't know those details yet, but we will certainly replace carpet and replace drywall and replace cabinets and things like that if they got damaged and if that's a concern. So we just, again, our main focus was stopping the water, and we got that done at about 8 a.m. this morning. So now we need to pivot to, what's the cleanup solution and details.
And as an update, Eric, we hadn't chatted, but I did give direction to the water remediation company to start with cutting those walls out. So as of right now, they should have already started that. That will include the casework, toe kick in the break room as well, to make sure that it dries out underneath the casework. And then they will, for any walls that don't show signs of moisture, to make sure they are going to do a moisture test to determine if any other walls that don't show signs of water need to be taken out as well. So as Eric said, it'll be the highest point plus another foot of the drywall that's going to be taken out, which will expose the wall cavity and allow it to fully dry. In regards to the carpet, I did speak with our QA/QC. He does recommend that we pull up the tiles that were wet, let it dry. Even though we have done the vacuuming of the water out he does recommend that we take the tiles up to allow them to dry. He does not believe that we need to replace the tile, mainly because the adhesive is water-based. So it will dry down and then it'll return to its natural state and function as it's supposed to. But yeah, in regards to the carpet tile, he does recommend that we pull the tile up where we can to allow it to dry.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, and I do appreciate a lot of the discussion and the answers. I think North Oak is probably the next item in this subsection. So updates on North Oak?
So North Oak opened in September, and we are operating. Bam was very busy, so that's great. We are still waiting on a few things that J.E. Dunn is working on. One of those things is an update to the elevator. And so there is some two-way, Aaron Gordon gave me a draft area of refuge two-way communication system that has to be added to the elevator for it to pass permanent occupancy. And so that is coming. They're struggling to get the parts for that. We still do have temporary occupancy of the building and can operate as normal. But there will be a process where for a couple days, the elevator will be down while they're installing that two-way communication unit. It is supposed to allow, yes, sorry.
If I could just interject here. So this is, it's important to note here that neither Dunn or the library were aware that this was required at the time of installation. I mean, Eric, you can kind of give the history on this, but it's simply a matter of a regulation that was unenforced at the time of the permitting process. And then we were made aware of literally like at the 11th hour. Eric, if I'm mischaracterizing this, let me know, but
no,
so this is something, yeah, go ahead.
That's essentially correct. There was a new code in 2021 that got published that made this requirement, and the city did not start enforcing it until about like 3 months ago. So we were one of the very first projects in the city that they said that this was going to be required. So between the design team and J. Dunn and MCPL, no one really was aware of this until the city brought it up right when we were doing final inspections.
And we did try to push back, but they weren't hearing it. So a minor expense, but we're permitted to use the elevator up until the point where we make the repairs.
Which city is this?
Kansas City.
I assume that's where that's coming from. So. Okay. Any other comment? Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just add quickly, the reason for the, I'll call it delay right now, is even the elevator contractors in town haven't really done a lot of this before because it's a brand new code. So the contractor we were working with did it on a couple of other projects very recently, like within the last month or two, and they were having some issues with those systems functioning correctly. So before they go do it at MCPL, they want to make sure they work through and troubleshoot the issues they had the first time they installed it on these other projects to make sure that what they go install at the library is going to end up working. So that they're trying to get that figured out before they go schedule the work to do it.
Thanks, Eric.
Any other questions regarding or comments regarding North Oak? All right, let's move to Riverside. Any update on Riverside?
Yeah, we have Steve Thompson here from Project Management Consultants. And Steve, if you could just give us a brief update on both projects and maybe talk a little bit about the brick, which Trustee Lazio was asking about.
I'll start out. I don't know when the brick color selection was made. That would be before our involvement, and we can ask SAP architects. But I'm sure in their presentations, that each group went through some presentation to the libraries, and hopefully that what they have up there is what was selected or agreed to. In Riverside, what they were proceeding to do in this past week, and I was there on Tuesday morning, they're preparing to put down the curb and gutter and the asphalt. They need to get their asphalt in prior to the plant's closing, which is usually a late November, early December, that kind of. They're also doing the same prep in Independence. Independence has their curb and gutter in. They completed all the compaction. They had scheduled asphalt for delivery on yesterday. And so yesterday and today was when they were going to hit the asphalt. Now, obviously that didn't happen. Now they need to look at their slot coming up, whether they were loaded up. They were scheduled through the end of October and into November, but then every other project that was preparing for asphalt is also going to be delayed. So we don't know yet when they can get back, but it should be hopefully in the next week. And at Riverside, they were preparing for all of this, and they had the compounding factor was the site of the old Quick Trip was built on uncontrolled fill, if you want it. It wasn't compacted and checked all the way up. So we had to put the building on stone columns and everything else. And they have run across some soft spots that were pumping when they driving trucks over to check. So they got the geotechnical engineer, the testing engineer, and we talked about what are the options if it's this soft versus that soft, and if it's really soft, then how you over excavate. We had all the options covered. The geotechnical fabric and grid were on site. They had managed to remedy all of the site except the main entranceway, which is a concrete deck. They were working on that while I was out there Tuesday, and the Magellan lady was there to make sure everything is safe on the gas lines. And they did find some conduit that connects the streetlights that was not encased in concrete. So Evergy is going to have to remedy that situation. So it was encased, and then we got partway across the drive and it was not. So that question is going to involve Evergy. I have to believe that they didn't leave any of those openings done at the end of the day, but that spot will still need to be continued and finally remedied before they can get in line for asphalt. Their curb and gutter, everything is on schedule. It should happen well before we lose our supply of asphalt. But that's what they're up against, because if you don't have that covered for winter time, you can't open a plant for it. So it'll be spring before that happens. They're both still on schedule to accomplish that. The rain in the last few days didn't help at all. In Independence, there's no work going on today, but they are dried in. The painter is in there doing its work. At Riverside, the drywall has gone from the top down, which they've done the previous week, all the way down, and they're taping and finishing, and it's looking very good. They're making good progress. I don't think Riverside will catch Independence, but the two superintendents are certainly competing, which is a good thing. You want to encourage that. Both the jobs are going well. The quality's good. Obviously, this rain isn't helping anybody, but we can't really identify the full extent of it until we're done. But the buildings are dried in. We should be impervious to that. For all the finish work that has to happen, it's just getting the drywall or the paving done that can weather sensitive and time sensitive.
Comments, questions, and as you're thinking, my favorite topic is, okay, so it's permanent power. What day is permanent power going to be delivered to Independence?
They are still hoping to get the temporary power early November. They had the transformer that we needed, but after the July debacle and everything else, they didn't want to let go of the only backup. And so they said we should receive our replacement for that backup early November. They have committed to giving us that transformer. But we won't need permanent power. I mean, that's for construction power. We won't need permanent power until just before, and I don't have a date for that because I don't have the schedule in front of me, but that's not the thing that had been the holdup with the power company. They have said even if they can't get their new one, or they will take the chance for the time that it'll take for their replacement, obviously ordered and back ordered and everything else. But I would say Kansas City in July probably grabbed transformers all over the country. It was one of the bigger recoveries that any place had to put up with. I happened to be right south or right north of Shawnee Mission North High School, which is where all of the trucks were gathered in Johnson County, but it still took 4 days to get to my house. So yeah, the power is stretched, but they will have we'll be able to operate without generator, which is good, by the, next week.
Any other comments, questions on Independence? So I get text the East Independence.
Just for my curiosity, are we on Independence Power Line?
Yes.
Well, we're right there kind of at the border, so.
Yeah, we are.
All right, well, I think, Steve, do you have any more? According to this, you may have something else. Any other updates that you need to give us on construction?
No, we got a new statement from Balance on busy, and I just shut my computer down because I don't have my charger with me, but we still have a balance of about $847,000 in contingency that should be more than adequate to finish these last two projects.
Any other comments or questions from Steve? Next item then is a budget update. Then Jeremy, I think you're going to present the capital plan expense report.
Jeremy Wilmot, the Chief Financial Officer for the library. Thank you all for this time. As you all know, I've been here about a month. One of the things I've been trying to do in that time is really get my hands around, get comfortable with this capital plan and all the variations and changes that have occurred over time. And so we wanted to introduce this format that we think hopefully will be fairly easy for the public and for everyone to follow along with from here to the end of the project. So when I start to put documents together, I always like to try to find something to anchor the document. And so in this case, the anchor is the audit. Not that you all have it in front of you, but the audit in note 12 talks about the commitments that the library has made. And it shows a total project budget of $131.8 million for this capital project. That number is also repeated in the budget document. So that's the budget that we're going with. Expenditures through June 30th were $117,008,000. And so what this document is essentially capturing is that the revenues through the audit are the first section. And then our projected revenues needed to get to the end of the project that have been allocated by the board for total revenues of $131,422,079. Then just under that are expenditures. That top line ties to our audit. So that's the 117 million that I just referred to. And then our current expenditures, those that have occurred from July 1 of 2023 through September 30th, 2023, is $1,974,024. To the right of that, we have it split between what's been deemed construction value and then essentially everything else: design, furniture, equipment, moving, all of that. And then that final category is the property acquisition. So our actual cash expenses through September 30th is $118,982,043. And then our projected expenditures, the two significant projects that we just discussed, East Independence and Riverside being the lion's share of this projection, is 12.8, almost 12.83 million. So you see our projected expenditures are slightly over our projected revenues. Should the projected expenditures not come down as we go through this process, we will then be looking for the board to allocate that final 387,000. But discussions that we've had with J.E. Dunn, discussions that we've had with Ellis, we're pretty confident that we're going to be able to shave these dollars down and not have to ask for that additional money to complete these final projects. But just in an era of transparency, we want to make sure that it's very clear what the board is allocated in terms of revenues, what we've actually spent and what we're projecting to spend through the end of the project. And then the second page of this document simply lists all of that summary by project. So actual expenditures for each of the facilities. The year-to-date expenditures are in the middle of the page, and then what we have remaining through the end of the project is in that far right section. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all may have with the limited knowledge that I have.
Any questions, comments? This presentation, capital plan presentation? All right. Other business?
All right. Kristen, I mean, if you could just give an overview of when our book opening dates are scheduled for North Oak and Green Valley.
Yes, I'd be happy to.
All right.
So for North Oak, we are scheduled for November 17th. That's a Friday at 9 a.m. In the morning. So then for Green Valley, it will be Friday, December 1st. We generally try and do them on Fridays to see if any of our elected officials are able to attend. And so as you can see, both of those are on a Friday coming up soon.
Do you have time for Green Valley?
9 a.m. Sorry, they're both at 9 a.m.
Okay, what's the date again?
November 17th for North Oak and December 1st for Green Valley. Yes. Crazy to me that we only have a few more of these.
The business? I just want to remind everyone before we close that our special meeting, I wrote it down, it's 15th. Yes, November 15th, 10 a.m., which will, the principal subject matter for that is the maintenance assessment plan. Anything else? Oh, I'm sorry, right next.
Yeah, I would just like to thank Marcy for willing to volunteer and serve on this committee.
This is Marcy. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I second. This is
Been moved
Michael.
and seconded that the meeting be adjourned. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Thank you. The ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned.